I see this referenced enough, so I think I actually need to make like a clear, concise statement. Look, don't stay skinny, right? And what I'm talking about is, lift and eat accordingly, such that you actually make gains. I'm not saying you want to be a 260-pound freak, right? But if you're working out, I think anybody could freaking agree you want some muscle out of it. That's half the point, right? And anybody that, any strongman that says, I don't care about how they look, would they rather be big and strong or small and strong? God damn, man. Everybody's going to pick big and strong in a freaking heartbeat. So what that's to say is, learn the power of the carb, learn the power of the fats, start tracking those macros. But on the opposite side of the spectrum, right? This is where I think some may be misled. Don't get fat either. And what I'm saying there is there's a point to a successful bulk where you're bigger, you're a little softer, right? Every real bulk comes with some body fat. It's just the nature of it, nothing to complain about. But if you get too soft, then to an extent, no matter how big you got during that bulk, you could have done it so inefficiently, muscle of or pounds of muscle wise versus pounds of fat wise, that you're so heavy into the adipose tissue side of things that to diet off and get back to your baseline is going to take more than 2 or 3 months. Like a serious nasty perma bulk, we've all seen it. That could be a year endeavor to bring yourself back to a regular baseline. And that's where I think the 200-pounder mantra can lose a little bit of its value, right? When I say 200-pounder, I'm talking about 200-pounder, 15 or so % body fat, right? Your abs are visible because there's a point where you got weight and then you've just got extra weight. You know what I'm saying? And the point isn't to just let the scale go up completely arbitrarily, right? Who cares if you're in a gold mine and you move out 500 pounds of dirt? There's no value to the dirt. The only value is that gold in the inside of it that you've got to sieve the dirt away from to actually freaking reveal. So that's my thought there. If you're getting a little too soft, or if you or a loved one's getting a little too soft in an off season, it might be worth a wake-up call. The cardio bike should be a staple, whether you're dieting up or, bulking up or dieting down. That shouldn't change. So if that's not, in your program, if that's not part of your 1, 2, 3 of you, I'd add it. I would most certainly recommend adding it, right? Innumerable benefits. For one thing, you get to feel better than everybody else who doesn't do their cardio. That's not a negligible feeling either, right? It's like, you raise your hand in class and you got the right answer, and the first 3 guys who raised their hand, they didn't, right? You get a certain feeling of like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, right? Whereas, backing off, skipping it, you're in the wrong, right? You just put your cart in the middle of the parking lot without pushing it back to the rack. You're sleazing. You're sleazing through it. Not something I want to see. Not something I want to hear either. That's one thing I heard at the Pittsburgh Expo. Some of the guys were talking about, like, oh, dude, tell so-and-so he's not doing his cardio. Yeah. Right? That's not what I want to freaking hear by any means, in any situation. No. Right, so get the cardio in there. But plan for chest tonight. Getting back to the task at hand. Task isn't really the right word. Frankly, activity is a little bit better. But yeah, chest. Thinking pressing, flies, and something. Machine press. We'll have to see. Not too heavy. Not too freaking heavy, because I really want to make these reps very intentional. And half of that is right there in the word tension. Right? If I throw a ton of weight around, I feel a ton of tension in the bottom when I'm launching it, but then I just ride the weight's momentum up and kind of keep catching it in the bottom like a spring. Whereas slow reps, you got no momentum. The only thing that's moving that weight is your continual contraction of whatever muscle you're working. Now, I think there's benefits to some, bouncy sets, but not for all of them. Right? There's a good yin and yang back and forth that you want to balance if you want to reach a certain level of zen with your training. So I'm going to try to employ that today. Plus, you only do crazy heavy lifts on the regular so many times in a row before you think something may or may not begin to be taking the full brunt of that stress. Rotator cuff, elbow, wrists, even your freaking pec itself. You're never totally sure. So if you know somebody who's kind of a nutcase and has been really going heavier, it might be good to tell them, try a light squeezing day. And odds are you might get more gains from it. I think I've excuse me, I'm pre-caffeinated right now, but I think I'm in the habit, or at least I've got the tendency to want to do heavier, lower rep sets. Not because I think they're better, but probably just because they're easier, right? It's easy for me to get that crazy burst of energy in like a 20-second set than it is to really sit there and get real deep into the burn of like a 45-second set. So I think that's where one of my weaknesses lie, and I need to start kind of implementing them, right? And really getting on those long, slow, squeezing, just freaking torturous sets, in contrast to, maybe some heavy ones that I did a couple sets before, right? But either way, across the board, there is one great equalizer of lifting. Be you a write every set in your notebook kind of guy, or just a wing it kind of dude. If your intensity's there, and you leave the gym pumped, in some way that rhymes, you're solid, right? But I think no more chatting. Strength is freaking pre. Get all these blood flow, nitric oxide inducing supplements into my system. They get started. All right, the music is loud enough that I might just kind of, jump through these clips extra quick. But let's just start with 3. 3 isn't too wild. So honestly, this might be close to, well, I don't know. If I was guessing conservatively, I might say more of a 15 rep set. But never guess what you think you're going to get. Always go over. Because then if you undershoot, at least you're still further than you would have got. Right? If I get the 10 reps in my head and I can really do 15, if I hit 10, in my mind, I did it. Right? No, you don't want to get yourself caught in that trap. Always overestimate. I think that's a good idea. All right, come on. But these will be controlled. All right. Oh my God. Okay. One more. Goodness. You all right? Yeah. Oh, yeah, thank you. A little wider grip for this one. One more. Oh my goodness. Oh, that was good. Let's get fucking nuts here. Now this set will implement just a little more speed. Not a lot, but just a touch.
Whoa. Okay. I'm not done. Let's make that a rest pause. So I'm going to give myself a second, take some breaths, and then go back in. Pick a new TikTok edit at the same time. Okay. I don't think I can do one more. All right, no, that's bullshit. One more. Give me a second. Okay. Oh, yeah. That's good. Now I feel good moving on. Last thing you want to do is leave something in the tank and then leave the move with a chump. Let's get over there. Machine press next. So, much more of a squeeze here. But since it's a lighter machine, I feel like I'm more comfortable going deeper because I'm not going to sort of, think I'm going to rip my pecs off. You know what I'm saying? Not that you think you should go in full range of motion, but I've kind of muscle bound myself where I got to work on my depth. But if I go too deep, like quick, just kind of asking for trouble. That's doing a preacher curl all the way down the bottom and then just trying to spring it back, So depth is definitely something I'm working on. But machines like this make it freaking easy. So let's make this shit happen. Okay. Oh, goodness. One more. One more here. A little wider grip for this one. Okay. Oh. Okay. Oh. Let's pick a new machine. Same thing though, pressing. Feel pretty strong today. All right. 3 plays is a little crazy. Drop this motherfucker to 2 1/4. I think that's a sweet spot. Boy. With a different song as well. All right. Actually, I think this with those other 2 sets of pressing, that's enough. Let's do some flies and we're nearly freaking done. We're nearly freaking pumped, I say. Same thing. Okay, come on. This might be it. I smashed my pinky between 2 plates a second ago. Not good.
It was last summer or winter, and I was just doing that the fucking failed. Tendonitis one. I like 2 places. I did like 6 in
Okay. Oh. Let's pose. Let's pose this mofo down.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, of course, there is, oh, and I kind of want to wait a touch so that the next chest day I might actually be able to see a visual difference pump-wise than, you know, just about a week ago or so. Oh, a wild rabbit sitting right about there. That's always nice. But, yeah, so pump check coming next chest day. But, yeah, what I was about to say was, of course, you know, there's pretty damn solid value to a clean, controlled set, right? You're not going to hurt yourself. You get solid contractions. You're not going to start using secondary muscle groups. It's good. But I don't think that that's the end-all, be-all approach, because the intensity that I was able to bring with that quicker set on that 3rd set of incline bench, or incline Smith bench, not the same, right? Way freaking wilder. There's something guttural about freaking, you know, quick and moving some shit around. Now, it doesn't need, that doesn't have to be every set, but I do think there's some value to, you know, let's just say exerting force, right? Because frankly, I mean, that's what we all want to do, right? You want to be able to basically, you know, pick up these weights, pick up these dumbbells, plates, or what have you, these stacks, and say, you're moving, and the only thing that's going to stop me is my inability to move you. Not discomfort, not, oh, this is hard. No, nothing apart from the fact that physically I can't tell my pecs to move this bar any higher. Not going to freaking happen, right? That's my goal. That's what I want to achieve. And I don't hit it every time. Like, frankly, that was probably the best set out of all of them. And the rest, you know, who's to say if I got a little more hyped, I couldn't have gotten another rep minimum. I'm not as concerned with that last set of flies, because that's just, you know, a finisher pump set, get some blood in the area. Those are, you know, when it comes to like taking all your sets to failure, there is room for just some sets to, I guess what you could say, discomfort and really just feeling a good burn and pumped up, right? You don't have to take every set like that, especially at the end. But for the majority of your working sets, right in the middle, right, the damn meat of the sandwich of your workout, the warm-up is the bread on one side, and maybe one more burnout finisher pump set is the bread on the end. The meat in the middle, those should be nuts, right? You should really push it on those. And it's going to play into everything else, because if you really push it, you're training harder. You're burning more calories, you're doing more damage in a, you know, in a bro science kind of sense. You're giving yourself something to recover from. And your body doesn't just resolve, or doesn't just, you know, act on desire, right? It's going to react to a need, right? If you need to recover, guess what your body's going to do? It's going to tell you, eat more freaking food. It's going to up your freaking appetite. Anybody who has, anybody who started lifting young, or if you've got a freaking, you know, kid floating around, you know, if they're like 16, 17, whatever, and they start working out, well, magically they're suddenly eating more. You know, they're just freaking chowing down because they're giving themselves a stimulus to grow from, which takes energy, right? And your body knows what it's doing. So if you're hungry, you're gonna eat. That's just the freaking nature of it. And if you're not hungry, well, you're not gonna eat. But what I was actually trying to say a second later was that if you're, if you're limiting your calorie intake, right, you're still burning a certain amount of energy. Every day you have a certain quota of, like, you know, heat that your body produces, and just movement, and maybe you're a guy who taps your foot, that takes energies, that's burning calories. And if you're not eating enough to fuel that whole day of energy, you know, digesting, converting CO2 to oxygen in your lungs and pumping your blood. If you don't eat enough food to make up all that energy, your body's going to use internal storage, right? Your body fat, and oxidize those as an energy source. Thus, you will get leaner. So that's where you've got to kind of have a mind over matter kind of freaking approach, and not wuss out, and just say to yourself, I'm dieting. I can handle a little discomfort. This is the price I'm paying for the leanness that I want. So it's as simple as it might sound. Frankly, every aspect of the working out and trying to change your body composition, size, leanness, just overall strength, the intensity of your training, it's just going to come down to how hard can you go. And that's not something that you necessarily have to compare to anyone else, right? Somebody who's been working out forever can obviously go pretty freaking hard. But the point isn't to go as hard as everybody else. It's to go harder than you have before, right? So to go from beginner to 3 months working out, you just made more progress than the guy who's like, 230 pounds, who's been working out for, 10 years, because he's, odds are, probably close to his end state size-wise, and he's just maintaining where he's at, which eventually is the point, right? This isn't a freaking exponential uphill endeavor, right? There's a point where you're like, all right, this is about where I want to stay. Let's stay here for a while and go from there. So as a beginner, dude, you're literally making more progress than some of these guys who have been in the gym for years. That's the fun part about starting out and being fresh, lifter wise. So just try to keep that mentality, because if you start thinking about like temporary positions, who has more gains, who's further ahead of me, that's gonna throw you off. It's just gonna fucking tear you down, right? Comparison is certainly the thief of joy, unless you're comparing yourself to yourself in the past, right? Now, I don't always think like this. Of course, I'm not a monk, so I'm thinking of guys who are still ahead of me in freaking every endeavor that there is. But if I'm really being objective with myself, I know all I can do is improve what I've got going on, and if I can keep making those improvements, then I get to enjoy the rewards, and there's frankly always a bigger fish. So unless you're Ronnie Coleman in the bodybuilding world, just be all right with going with the flow. But maybe you're a guy where you got a badass chip on your shoulder, and you're gonna hear me say that and say, dude, Sam, shut up, right? You don't know me, right? Some guy, if you're really after it, then hey, I'm not gonna put you down. That's a freaking way to go about it, as long as you know how to keep up that energy, right? Some guys, you've seen it. I'm gonna be the next blank. I see the TikTok posts, man. I've been scrolling. Right? If you've been posting fitness content, odds are I've scrolled past it on my phone, right? I'm a phone addict. I got to work on my screen time, but that's neither here nor there. And I see it all the time. Guys are starting out. They post everything. They're getting all gung ho about it. Just get ready for the fact that it's a long-term kind of thing. And if you can be comfortable with that, right, and look at it on more of like a month-by-month, year-by-year frame instead of like a day-by-day, hour-by-hour, dude, you're unfreaking stoppable. It's well, I don't know, it gets kind of weird with all the crypto stuff, because some of those things freaking like 1000x on day one, but then you risk getting the rug pulled. So maybe don't look into those. But it's like, what's the best investment? Just simply not blowing all your shit on something, and taking it slow and steady, right? So get yourself into a routine that you can do and keep cruising, right? Eventually you will freaking make it. Even before motors and big ass shipping containers, we were going worldwide across the seas with damn paddle boats and sails, right? It's not the quickest thing, it's not a damn speedboat, but you'll get there. So I try to think about that a lot. That's the end of my shtick. So yeah, I feel like I'm getting in a mode here. It's I was almost getting myself amped up from my own little talk. That's kind of fun. But yeah, that's all I got. So plan for post-workout, slam some carbs, get about 50 grams of protein in. Man, I gotta look it up, because drinking egg whites is so quick, but you don't absorb all the protein in regular ass egg whites. So I gotta look up if the pasteurized egg whites are legit, and that's not a recommendation, right? Disclaimer here: don't eat raw eggs. Right? And I stand by that 100%. Do as I say, not as I do, kind of situation. But I'll look into it. I've been staying away from shakes. I think I'm a little prone to lactose and dairy-based effects. So I'm trying to see what that's like. Getting more of my protein just from straight up meat, like the Liver King. No liver though, and no testicles either. I'm thinking more like regular cuts and ground beef. Not putting the guy down, but that's not really my thing. He's already got that covered. So either way, I think that's all I got, man. So I'll be ready to see you tomorrow for either back, or I might make it a little bit of a chill day and do forearms and calves. To be determined tomorrow. So I'll see you then.